And do you see my presentation still?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Cool. So we're going to start off with our Hoka brand history. So Hoka was founded in 2009. Our founders are Nico and Jean-Luc, and Hoka began in the French Alps. So our founders were really trying to solve the simple problem of running downhill faster. They felt that they were just as fit as the competition that they were running against when they were doing their ultra marathons and trail runs. But when it came to running downhill, they felt like the technology wasn't where it could be to help them reach their goals. So with that, they decided to create a shoe that would be more efficient, both running downhill and uphill and everything in between. So they started strapping pieces of foam to the bottom of their shoes, and they were carving away at that foam after every time they would run downhill, and really just fine-tuning and tweaking the technology of that outsole until they found a product that they were really happy with, the way that it allowed them to perform on the trails. So this was all going on at the same time that minimalist running shoes were trending. So Hoka was really going against the grain right from the start and just building the product that they thought was most effective and efficient for them. And that idea started to catch on. And people thought they were a little bit crazy at first, making a shoe with an oversized midsole during the time of the minimalist movement. But the ultra running community really adopted this first, and then everyday runners, walkers, people on their feet all day began to realize that there was something to this shoe with a bit of a larger midsole and outsole that was really lightweight and high cushion. And then just a few fun facts about Hoka. Hoka One One means to fly over the earth. And this is a Maori word, which is from New Zealand. So another aspect of Hoka that I do want to talk about right before we get into the specific product assortment is our Hoka Difference or Hoka Experience. So there's a few things that that you can tell are signature Hoka, and the first being the cushion midsole. So no matter which Hoka you're trying on, you are going to notice right away that that midsole is extremely cushioned, making it super comfortable for someone who's running long miles, standing on their feet all day, going to the gym. You'll really find it in all of our assortments. And then the next part of the Hoka experience is our meta rocker. So we like to think of this as the wheel that drives you forward. And this is going to be the rocker on the sole of our shoe. And yeah.
Can you, Scott, there's background noise. Do you hear the background noise? Somebody's not muted.
It's us. We're not muted.
Good. Okay, so the meta rocker, we really think of it as something that is going to complement the runner's natural gait cycle. Think of it as like the wheel of a bicycle, just really making that transition from heel to toe super smooth as you're going through the gait cycle. The last piece of technology that is in all of our shoes is the active foot frame. So we think of this as a bucket seat in a race car. I also like to describe this technology as the difference between sitting on top of a surfboard rather than sitting inside of a canoe. So when you're on a surfboard, you don't have any walls up around you to protect you on the sides. Whereas when you're in a canoe or a kayak, you have those walls up around the sides of you. And same thing goes for our active foot frame. So when your foot sits into the shoe, it sits a little bit deeper into the midsole, and the walls of the shoe are going to come up around the sides of your foot just to add a little stability and protection around the foot. And this is something that's in both our neutral and our stability shoes. So between the cushion midsole, meta rocker, and active foot frame, those three pieces of technology you will find in all of our models. And then the two on the right-hand side here, the J-frame and ProFly technology, these are in certain models of Hokas, and I will call those out as we see them as I go through this presentation. So that first piece being the J-frame. So the J-frame you'll find on our stability models. So in this image, you can see on the outsole there that that yellow piece of foam that's actually kind of shaped like a J. So that's going to be what we use to add in some more support to our stability shoes. That piece of foam is a little bit of a denser material than the rest of the foam on the outsole. So it's just going to add a little bit of guidance on the medial and lateral sides of the shoe, just to help deliver a little bit more support without using like heavy and rigid materials that that can kind of that can be a little bit heavy and abrasive sometimes. So that's our J-frame technology, and I'll point out the shoes that do utilize that later on. Also have ProFly. So this is something that you'll find in our more up-tempo shoes. It's basically the density of the midsole. There's two different densities. It's a little bit softer on the heel and firmer on the forefoot. So when you land, you think you want a nice soft landing on your heel, but then as you roll through your gait cycle onto your midfoot and forefoot, you do want something a little bit more propulsive. So that ProFly is just going to be a really nice like transition through the gait cycle and make it feel really nice and up tempo. And I won't spend too much time on this, but these are just some of the materials that we use in our shoes. The first three you'll tend to see in our trail shoes, and then the rubberized foam. You will see that in a few of our different models, but I just want to leave it here. I'll share out this deck afterwards, so if this is something you're interested in, you can look back to see more specifically about some of our materials. And now we're going to glide into our specific model. So this is our glide category. We like to think of this as our everyday trainer, a shoe that you can put a lot of miles on. They're workhorse shoes that can really do a little bit of everything. And the first one that I'll speak on is the Bondi 7. So the Bondi 7 falls into our neutral plush cushion category of trainers. So this is a really great shoe for a variety of different people. So this could be a shoe that's great for someone who's training for their first marathon, someone who maybe they're a nurse and they're on their feet all day long, someone who is a walker, someone who's looking for a shoe if they're having some sort of like foot pain. This tends to be a model that people lean towards. So really it kind of encompasses a lot of different needs. And so I do want to call out also on the top right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see this on a few different models in this deck. So the APMA Seal of Acceptance, that's the American Podiatric Medical Association's Seal of Acceptance. So we've submitted some of our shoes to this program, and they're tested and approved for, I think it's a 2-year seal that we get to put on the shoes. And basically it says that without making any medical claims about the products, there's something that could be recommended like in conjunction with other treatments for someone experiencing certain foot pains. And so definitely not to say like this is going to solve like your foot pains, but it is something that could be used in conjunction with or something that medical professionals sometimes recommend. So getting into the specifics of the Bondi, starting with the upper, it uses an open engineered mesh. So that's going to be a super breathable material around the upper. The update that I really like about the Bondi 7 is it now uses a memory foam collar. So around the heel counter, that really, really plush collar. It's going to create a semi-custom fit to the shoe because it uses memory foam. It's going to mold to the foot a tiny bit more in this update. It's also using TPU overlays. That's just going to add a little bit of additional support along the upper, create a nice lockdown fit. And then moving along to the midsole. So it uses an early stage meta rocker. So essentially there's two different types of meta rockers. There's early stage meta rockers and late stage meta rockers. Most of our shoes have the early stage meta rocker, just meaning that it's a little bit more noticeable. So you will notice that rocker technology a little bit more in the Bondi 7. Moving along to the outsole. So the outsole uses high abrasion rubber patches. So in those, you can see there's like hits of black rubber along the outsole. You can really notice when comparing the Bondi to other shoes in the lineup, like the Clifton and the Rincon, that it does have a little bit more rubber on the outsole. And basically that's just to help with the durability. So that material is a little bit more durable. So while it does add a little bit of weight, it's also adding like a nice durability to the shoe. So yeah, those are the main points on the Bondi 7. I'm going to now move on to the Clifton 7. So this also falls into the neutral category, and it has a tiny bit like the Bondi is going to be our most plush cushion shoe in our neutral category, and then the Clifton just has a tiny bit less cushion, but by the same token, it's also losing a little bit of weight. Again, you'll see that American Podiatric Medical Association seal of acceptance. So that's a great talking point if you do have that more medical based consumer. And then as far as which consumer to pull this for, in a lot of ways, it could be for the same person that you're pulling the Bondi 7 for. It's for that person looking for an everyday trainer. They're on their feet all day long, and it really comes down to the amount of cushion or the feel that they like underfoot between like something like the Clifton and the Bondi, because they do feel a little bit different underfoot. It also uses an open engineered mesh, so that upper is going to be nice and breathable. It's super lightweight mesh, and the tongue is gusseted, which means that it's stitched down on the inside, so it's not going to move from side to side quite as much. And then it also has a new vertical pull tab. So along the heel of the shoe, you see how it kind of like, it flares out a little bit, almost like an elf ear. So that's going to be our intuitive pull tab. It's going to fit the shape of the Achilles tendon in a really nice way. So it kind of flares out away from the Achilles, just making it a little bit more comfortable. And it also just makes for a really easy slip on and off. Clifton 7 also using our early stage meta rocker. So you will notice that meta rocker as you are moving through your gait cycle. And it's using a full length EVA midsole. So it's got our signature Hoka cushioning in that midsole. The outsole, like I mentioned with the Bondi 7, it has those high abrasion rubber hits on the bottom and that black rubber. And you can see on the Clifton 7, there still is a decent amount of that high abrasion rubber, but slightly less than the Bondi 7. So this does contribute to it being a tiny bit lighter than the Bondi 7 as well. And yeah, so another call out on the Clifton 7 is the flat waist geometry. So the platform of the shoe is going to be a little bit wider. So along with having that active foot frame, a little bit of a wider base on our shoes is just going to add inherent stability, even if it's a neutral shoe. Okay, so moving on to the Rincon 2. So you can see there's kind of a theme to the neutral shoe so far. We've gone from highest cushion down to medium cushion with the Clifton, and now we're on the Rincon. which it's still really cushioned, but it's just also losing a little bit of weight. So the Rincon is a little bit more of a fast shoe, I would say, in our glide category. So it's still a neutral shoe. It still has balanced cushion, so still a lot of cushion underfoot. But overall, it's a sleeker package. It's a little bit more lightweight. That mesh in the upper is it's really, really lightweight. So that upper kind of disappears when you're wearing it. You don't really even notice it because it's so lightweight and breathable. And then we're still using the accentuated heel pull tab on this. So you see the little loop on the back of the shoe, just an easy on and off, and really lightweight slim tongue on the upper as well. And then also using that early stage meta rocker. So a little bit of a noticeable meta rocker, and just a really like a pretty fast shoe for a daily trainer. And then similar theme, looking at the outsole, we're seeing less and less of that high abrasion rubber. So Rincon 2 getting a little bit lighter and reducing the weight underfoot. So it's going to still be a really, really smooth ride from heel to toe. And I think this shoe is great for if you have someone who, I think it could be used for a lot of the same things as the Clifton and Bondi if you're training for like a longer race. I think it's also a great shoe to throw into your lineup if maybe you're using something like the Clifton and Bondi for your long runs, and then you throw in something like the Rincon 2 for your workout days, your up-tempo days, or even race day. It is a lighter shoe, so I think it's great for a high school athlete as well. So it's a great price point. Yeah, so there's Rincon 2. We're next going to move on to the Gaviota 3. So now we're headed into our stability category. So whereas the Bondi 7 is our highest cushion neutral trainer, the Gaviota 3 is going to be our highest cushion stability trainer. So still in that glide category, still an everyday trainer, great for someone who's training for a race or on their feet all day long. But this is going to be for that person who needs really plush stability. Again, we have that APMA seal of acceptance. Moving into the upper, we have engineered mesh on the upper. Something I do want to call out is the midfoot H-frame. So hopefully you can see in this picture, but there's the way that the lacing system works on the top of this shoe. It's just going to increase the lockdown of the midfoot a little bit more. It allows the laces to get a little, allows you to really adjust them to your needs and just increase the support of the midfoot. So that's a nice feature of the Gaviota. It also has that really, really plush heel collar, the same as we see on the Bondi 7. So really just adding in as much cushion as we can around that heel and underfoot to really give that awesome step-in feel. So the midsole uses our J-frame technology. So that was in the Hoka experience I talked about earlier, that J-frame being that firmer density foam underfoot. And you can see it a little bit better on the picture of the outsole. So that light pink material on the outsole, it's kind of shaped like a J, and it wraps around the shoe. That's just where you're going to get that added stability. So again, we have flat-waisted geometry. So the base of the shoe is going to be a little bit wider, just providing a little bit more support and stability, along with having that J-frame. It's just going to be a really supportive shoe. The reason I mentioned earlier, early stage meta rocker, this is one of the few shoes in our lineup that actually has a late stage meta rocker. So you only really notice that rocker right at the end of your gait cycle. So for most of the time that you're in the shoe, you won't notice it. But as you're going through like the toe off phase of your gait cycle, you'll just feel a slight rocking, but not nearly as much as any of the previous models that I mentioned. Yeah, and then the outsole, we do have those hits of rubber on the outsole, just increasing that durability. So again, I would compare this to the Bondi in that it has that the maximum amount of rubber on the outsole, just making it a little bit more durable, and just a really plush, supportive stability shoe. The Urahi 5. Okay, so if the Gaviota 3 is a little bit more similar to the Bondi 7 of our neutral shoes, then I would say the Urahi 5 is a little bit more similar to the Clifton 7. So this, again, being a stability shoe. And you can kind of see the similarities to the Clifton, I think. So basically one of the main differences between the Urahi 5 and the Clifton 7 is that the Urahi 5 is going to be a stability shoe, so it does have that J-frame technology. So again, with the APMA seal of acceptance, which is awesome that we have that on so many of our shoes in our glide category, has engineered mesh upper, and also has a gusseted tongue on the Urahi 5. We're going back to the early stage meta rocker, so you will notice that meta rocker a little bit more as you roll through the gait cycle. And because it has the J-frame technology, that outsole is going to be just a slight bit firmer because that J-frame is a firmer density of foam. And it also uses that flat-waisted geometry, so the base of the Urahi 5 is going to be a little bit wider, just giving you that inherent stability. And then on the outsole, on the bottom there, we have our rubber, high abrasion rubber hits. The Urahi 5 is going to be a great everyday trainer for someone who wants something that's a really light stability shoe. You're still getting a ton of support in the Urahi 5, but it's a surprisingly lightweight package. Yeah, that's the Urahi 5. I threw this in there, the fly category. I don't believe you have any specific shoes in this category, but just to give you an idea of the categories that we have, this is going to be more of our up-tempo shoes, so using our Pro Fly technology. Some of our shoes in the fly category have carbon fiber plates. They're just a little bit more propulsive and up-tempo, so just to put it on your radar. The next category is our sky category. So this is going to be our trail, hike, like all-terrain shoes. So we will move into that, starting with the Challenger ATR. And so the Challenger ATR, this is going to be an all-terrain shoe. And so this is something that you can wear when you're on the roads, if you're if your run transitions from running on the road to running on the trails and then back again. You might not want to bring your trail shoe onto the road just because you're not really maximizing its use if you're wearing your trail shoe on the road. So this is a great shoe if you are on multiple surfaces. It's going to be a neutral shoe, and it has balanced cushion, so nice plush shoe underfoot, has a lot of support and cushion. And you can, I'll start with the outsole on this one just because I think it is nice to see the differences in the outsole, which is really where you'll notice that it's an all-terrain shoe. So it does have a little bit more grip on the bottom of the shoe than one of our everyday trainers. So you will see a little bit more grip on the bottom. And it's using 4mm lugs, so it has that traction. And it's great for like if you're on a surface that's a little bit uneven, if it's like rocky or gravel, but it doesn't have, I'll show you the Speed Goat next, where it's kind of just like that next level, a little bit more tailored specifically to the trails. And then the other difference between some of our everyday trainers and our trail shoes is that the upper tends to be a little bit more durable. So when you are on those trails, and uneven surfaces, you do tend to want your upper to be a little bit more durable, a little bit more of a lockdown fit, just so that your foot is really, really secure in the shoe as you're transitioning from different surfaces. So it's using dual layer mesh so that that mesh upper is going to be a little bit more locked down, and the toe of the shoe is using TPU reinforcement. So that's just going to be an extra bit of like protection on the toe. And then this also is using our early stage meta rocker. And yeah, so great shoe if you're transitioning from road to trail and back again. Okay, moving on to the Speedgoat 4. This is one of our best-selling trail shoes. It's great if your entire run or walk is on the trails. So this shoe, I'll start with the outsole. So this one, you can really see that on the outsole. It's super technical. It's really designed for those trail surfaces, whether that's something that's got more roots and rocks, or if it's a slippery surface, if you're running through mud or water a little bit. So it's using Vibram Mega Grip rubber outsole. So this material is just going to be really great for grip on those different, more technical surfaces. And you'll see that the lugs are 5mm on the Speedgoat rather than 4mm on the Challenger. So do have a little bit more, like a little bit bigger lugs on the Speedgoat, and zonal rubber. So that's going to help with the stability and the support on the outsole of the shoe. It's also going to help with the durability. So that outsole of the Speedgoat is just really, really technically designed for those trail runs. Moving along to the upper of the Speedgoat, again, using much more durable materials on the upper than we would see in an everyday trainer, just because you are running over those roots and rocks, and things can might rub against your shoes a little bit more depending on the surface. So that upper is really designed to lock in your foot and just make sure that it's really secure upper. So, and the tongue on the Speedgoat is also gusseted, which is nice. So the tongue's not going to be moving around from side to side on the Speedgoat. And then the midsole is really, it's super lightweight and plush. I think it's always a little bit surprising to think how lightweight trail shoes can be. So, and something we did with the Speedgoat 4 is make the toe box a little bit wider. So it is a little bit more accommodating. You do have a little more room in the toe box for any sort of like swelling in the feet, and just to give your feet a little bit more room to breathe. So yeah, there's the Speedgoat 4, and that is all I have. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions